Hello and welcome to this episode of Andy Learns Indonesian. In this episode, we're going to learn what to say at the bakery, vocabulary for directions, and also the names of more foods in Indonesian. Okay then, let's start. The Indonesian word for bakery is toko roti. Toko roti. And the literal translation of that is bread shop. Toko being the Indonesian word for shop. Toko roti. Toko roti. Toko roti. The Indonesian word for baguette is the roti tongkat. Roti tongkat. Now the literal translation for this one is breadstick, with tongkat being the Indonesian word for stick. Roti tongkat, roti tongkat, roti tongkat. An easy one now. The Indonesian word for donut is donat. Donut. Donut. The word for cookie is kue kering. Kue kering. Kue kering. This is a word we've covered on a previous episode, I think, but I would do it again. The Indonesian word for bread is roti. 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 Everyone loves a bit of bread. Now this one's not straightforward, but we'll give it a go. The Indonesian word for dessert is hidangan penutup. Hidangan penutup. Hidangan penutup. That's a bit of a tongue twister, but it's worth it if you fancy your desserts. The Indonesian word for cake is kue. Kue. Now we've seen the word kue before in this episode, as in kue kering. Now the literal translation of kue kering is dry cake, with kering being the Indonesian word for dry. But this time it's just kue for cake. Kue. 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 A nice and easy one now. The Indonesian word for pie is pie. 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 All you need to do is to remember the spelling in English and Indonesian is different, but they sound fairly similar. Pie. Pie. The word for bun is roti bulat. Roti bulat. And the literal translation for this one is round bread, with bulat being the Indonesian word for round. Roti bulat. Roti bulat. Roti bulat. A couple of extra ones now for at the bakery. The Indonesian word for customer is pelanggan. 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 And the word for money is uang. 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 So that's it for at the bakery. I hope that didn't leave you feeling too hungry. And now on to directions in Indonesian. The Indonesian word for left is kiri. 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 And the Indonesian word for right is kanan. 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 Both kiri and kanan are very useful words to know. The word for north is utara. 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 And the word for south is selatan. 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 The Indonesian word for east is timur. Timur. Now this is an easy one to remember because it reminds me of the country that is a neighbour of Indonesia called East Timor or Timor-Leste. Timur. 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 And the word for west is barat. 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 The Indonesian word for here is di sini. Di sini. Di sini. And the word for there is di sana. Di sana. Di sana. The Indonesian word for up is atas. 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 And down is bawah. 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 The Indonesian word for over is di atas. Di atas. Di atas. And the word for under is di bawah. Di bawah. Di bawah. Well, that's enough for directions for now. And now we're going to learn some more words for foods. I've been learning some of these words using the Drops app. If you've never used Drops before, it's worth looking at and it's very good to learn vocabulary in any language. Okay then, so the Indonesian word for butter is mentega. 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 The Indonesian word for peanut is kacang. Kacang. Now to me this sounds similar to the English word kaching, which is like a sound you make when you're collecting money or the till in the shop. Kaching, kaching. And it also reminds me of the English phrase, pay peanuts, get monkeys. So the way I'm remembering this word, kacang, is to think of peanuts being the salary of the staff, kaching, kacang. And it just reminds me of this word. It's a great way of remembering this word. Kacang. 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 And the word for coconut is kelapa. 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 The Indonesian word for sausage is fairly easy to remember. It's sosis. 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 I'm sure you remember that one. And the Indonesian word for walnut is kenari. Kenari. Now, I believe the Indonesian word for canary, as in the yellow bird, is also kenari. So be careful not to mix the two up. Walnut. Kenari. 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 A couple of bonus ones just to finish on. The way to say I pour in Indonesian is aku menuangkan. Aku menuangkan. Aku menuangkan. And finally, how to say I serve in Indonesian is aku menyajikan. Aku menyajikan. Aku menyajikan. Okay guys, that's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. And please, if you can, subscribe to Andy Learns on YouTube, because the more subscribers I get, the more videos I can make and hopefully help you out too in your language learning. Okay, see you later.